And we're back with Youth in Politics with Republican candidate for governor, Bruce Poliquin. We will move on to health care now. What is your ideal health care plan for the state of Maine?
We have to make sure, Logan, that we provide health care for those who truly cannot afford it in our taxpayer-funded health care program like MaineCare, our Medicaid program. But at the same time, there are thousands and thousands of small businesses in Maine and families who are purchasing private health insurance. We have to make sure that that's affordable. One of the problems we have in this state in attracting business development and jobs is that we have some of the most expensive health care insurance in the nation. Now, there are a couple things that we can do to bring down the cost of health insurance in the state. First is to open up competition to the health care providers in the state. In the state of Maine, there are only 2 insurance companies that provide individual policies to small businesses and individuals. If you go to the other New England states, there are anywhere between a dozen and 2 dozen different insurance companies that compete for those dollars. So we need to open up competition to those companies that are providing health insurance in the state. That will help drive down prices.
Do you believe Dirigo was a success? Why or why not?
No, it was a failure, and it's a classic example of mismanagement at the state level. When the Dirigo Health Care Plan was instituted in 2003, the goal was to enroll 135,000 of our fellow Mainers that were previously uninsured. Today, it enrolls 10,000 Mainers. Only 3,500 were previously uninsured. It was not supposed to cost the taxpayers of Maine anything. It has cost us $155 million and still counting. And it was also supposed to drive down the cost of health insurance in the state, and health insurance costs have gone through the roof. That is a classic example of a program that should have been reformed years ago or closed. We have to find a better way to do that.
So you believe we should create a new program rather than revamping it?
What I'm saying is that program does not work and should be closed. Now, we can't put those folks that are in the program on the street. We have to find another home for them, and we will do that. But we need someone, Logan, who is a skilled manager and someone who's been successful with his or her financial dealings to deal with these real-world economic, fiscal, and job-related issues.
And that person's you.
Well, the voters of Maine will decide that, but we are very flattered at the reception we've been getting. We've been working 7 days a week for a year and a half, reaching out to the voters of Maine. We're being very well received. I'm very encouraged by the response we're getting, and I'm very humbled. So I think you are right. Yes, I think that will be me. But thank you for the question.
You have said that big spending has not led to good results. How are you going to change this by spending less and still accomplishing what we need?
We have to fundamentally, Logan, look in the mirror as a state and ask ourselves a question. What programs should we be offering our citizens and what we can afford? You know, sometimes in a democracy, in order for change really to take hold, you have to be at the edge of the cliff. We're there now, and we're looking down into the abyss. We have a series of economic and financial problems in this state that are beyond anything that we've seen here for a generation or two. Now, the good news is that Maine is a very small state. We have a population half the size of Brooklyn, New York. We know what the problems are in this state. We know for the most part what the solutions are. But we need someone who has skilled management experience and success in their financial dealings to address these real-world problems head-on and not worry about the next election.
How do we know what is important enough to be spent on?
Well, first of all, we have to look at what other states are providing their citizens. An example I gave to you earlier before was our MaineCare program. I mean, clearly we need to have the resources to take care of those who truly can't provide for themselves. But we can no longer afford to offer benefits in that program that are 2 and 3 times as generous as what other states are offering. We can't afford it anymore. It's not fair to the taxpayers who are trying to foot the bill. It is not fair to the folks who can provide for themselves but choose not to. These social service programs and welfare programs are to give folks a leg up, to help them become independent and take care of themselves and not permanently impoverished as wards of the state. That's the wrong way to go.
Let's turn to energy. Tell me a little about your energy plan, how it's going to be cost effective.
One of the problems we have in our state is that the energy that we are paying and our businesses are paying and our families are paying in this state are way beyond the national averages. So it's a major impediment of locating a business in this state and creating jobs. So we have to focus on reducing the cost of energy in the state to create incentives for businesses to locate here. We have to be very careful, Logan, to make sure we are not going to substitute a more expensive form of energy for a system that's already expensive now. Let me give you an example. Right now, Maine businesses and families are paying 50% above the national average for electric power. But directly to our north is Canada, the Maritimes, and Quebec. They're generating electric power for about a fourth of what we're paying for.
Wow.
And the reason they're doing that is they're generating power through hydroelectric dams and nuclear power plants. We need to, at the state level here in Maine, complete and repair our electric power grid. So we'll be able to transmit electricity cost effectively throughout the state and look to Canada to try to import that cheap, green, renewable energy that leaves no carbon footprint. We need to be very serious about looking to the north to import that energy. At the same time, if I may add, if the federal government wants to invest in alternate forms of energy in this state to help develop those industries, fine, but we're broke. We have no new money to do that.
What makes you stand out compared to the other handful of candidates? What makes you unique?
Well, first of all, I'm from the private sector. My entire life, I've been starting, investing in, and managing jobs, managing companies and creating jobs. So there are some candidates in our field that are career politicians from either Washington or Augusta. So that's a very stark contrast. The type of experience that we need, Logan, in Augusta are dealing with our real-world economic and fiscal problems. And someone from the private sector is better prepared to deal with those issues. That's one. Second of all, I have extensive experience in the financial sector, and I've been very successful with my financial dealings. I mentioned earlier that one of the companies I ran managed $5 billion of worker pension funds. And I understand these real-world fiscal issues that confront our state. Let me drill down a little bit more, if I can, on that, Logan. The taxpayers of Maine have a $9 billion mortgage they owe to the retirement and the health care benefits for our state workers. That is a $9 billion unfunded liability that we must pay. That is a 600-pound gorilla in the room that no candidate is talking about. My experience in the private sector dealt with and built a company that deals specifically with those issues. We must address that issue because in 5 years, the payments to those two programs total $700 million a year. So that is one competitive advantage I have because there's no other candidate on either side that has that experience in dealing with those fiscal issues.
Thank you for being on the show.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for watching. This has been Youth in Politics. See you next time.